Okay, let's start with this. Google Chrome, sharing, and presenting. Can you see my screen? Perfect.
Yep.
So good morning, noon, afternoon, evening, and if you live in a different universe where it's no time, also welcome. My name is Diego Pino. I work at the Metropolitan Library Council, and presenting with me is Allison Lund, which is going to present herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Allison Lund. I'm the Digital Projects and Metadata Librarian at Metro.
Thank you, Allison. I'm going to try to fly very quick through the slides so I can actually show you like a live presentation of what we're doing with IIIF and Archipelago and how Archipelago can be used to learn and work with IIIF. And let's get started. So what is Archipelago? You've probably heard of Archipelago or you've never heard of Archipelago. Archipelago is basically a slim, empathic, cute, smart, open source repository software that we have been building for the last 2 years on top of Drupal 8, 9, and 10, hopefully in the future. It's also like a Dockerized deployment strategy. So you can deploy your own Archipelago very quickly. It takes 10 minutes, or you can also like deploy it live. It includes a curated list of community-built software and services. We have like things like Solar. We have like Hlcr extraction built by the Navarro State Library. We have like viewers like Mirador and many other things. And it's also like a lot of development around Drupal to make it like less CMS and more repository. And we named this like custom development, the Strawberryfield modules. And the home is the Metropolitan New York Library Council. We're nurturing this new patch of like grass in the repository world. Archipelago and IIIF are actually best friends. So from the start, 2 years ago, we wanted to make IIIF core to our system. And one of the particularities of Archipelago is that instead of like other traditional CMS, you store every tiny little detail of your metadata and data into fields that go into a database. Archipelago stores everything inside a JSON blob that defines your whole digital object, your collections. Because every metadata and data is unified, right? And we have like a layer that is like a templating system that can upcast and transform this JSON into other formats. Basically, it allows infinite schemas and infinite APIs. Of course, knowledge is not infinite, so it depends a bit on your knowledge and also the things we provide initially, right? But it's also like a very good way of like learning and also evolving because the twig templates rule, these templates, right, rule everything from your output to your Solar to your IIIF manifest to how you expose the metadata and the APIs to the outside. Archipelago, as I said, is a repository, but it's also a metadata synthesizer. So basically, you can take pieces of metadata, data, technical metadata, and mix them all together and to the twig templating system, generate things to the outside and expose them, right? And because of that, it's actually a perfect IIIF playground. And I have to confess myself here, and I'm also speaking for Allison, hopefully, we are not IIIF API experts, right? And we as developers and like building the software and pushing it, we are totally aware of that. But we know people are, and people are evolving into that. And also schemas are alive and changing. So by providing these tools, people can like play their own tunes, right? And use this as a playground. Archipelago and the IIIF Cookbook initiative, repository, and page share motivations. So Archipelago thinks about like metadata as local source ingredients, right? And the recipes, the strict templates are evolving. And the Cookbook has these fixed ingredients, right? That allows you to like go and test directly and has these proven recipes. So I will say Cookbook is like things and dishes output, right? That you can immediately eat. In Archipelago, you will actually learn to cook and it's a bit more experimental, right? And you can eventually use the same cookbooks or evolve your recipes and add more ingredients. Everything local sourced and organic. So this is like a bit scary on the right side, right? Let's look at this digital object in Archipelago. On the left side, you have like the render representation of this Archipelago digital object, an ADO. On the right side, I minimize this. It's like a JSON blob, right? It contains everything that is like building this renderization. You can see in this screen here that you have like a Mirador viewer, you have link data elements on the right side that are rendered, you have a map down there, and you have also like more information. The twig templating system basically takes these different places, right? There's different like source data and generates these different representations. Twig templating was built originally to generate HTML on the fly very fast. It's like built in PHP. It can like render things, compiling its own source on the fly, and it's very efficient. We just use this instead of like generating HTML for JSON, JSON-LD, XML, and any other format, and we just like connected all the pieces. So again, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just like using the wheel efficiently. So how this all happens, I'm like a lover of tools. So in the center here, this tiny critter, right, is like the digital object this here, right? How you create the digital object. Initially, it can be either via web form. Web forms are customizable, right? People can like just add all the fields they need for their own needs, their own workflows, or it can be ingested via a spreadsheet via like a very large repository system that we have that ingests stuff. What happens when you go either road is there's like this twig templating also shaping your data. Once this digital object, this blob is born, right, the twig templating engine again comes in place and feeds either formatters, which are your viewers, the Mirador, Opacity Dragon, Internet Archive Book Reader, the 3D formatters. We have like a lot of different formatters, or can also feed endpoints, right, which are also like customizable. You can have like a IIIF manifest version 2, version 3, version 4 in the future, right, and they all live together. Or you can have like even conditional endpoints that act differently. And finally, all these formatters plus the twig templates plus your raw ingredients generate the final representation here with a doodle, which is supposed to be the same here as that. It also feeds search, and it also feeds Solr, right? Because JSON is very deep hierarchical, right? We use like an extraction strategy that feeds stuff into Solr, and then the Solr data can also be used in the formatters. So there's like basically a full fridge of things you can use to cook. How that really looks. On the left side, I use like a tiny piece here as extract of an internal raw JSON of a digital object. And you will notice here that this is not descriptive metadata. This is actually technical metadata extracted from one of the images uploaded to this digital object. So to build, in our perception, right, to build like the most accurate, best, smarter IIIF manifest, you actually want to see how your media looks like. What's the width? What's the height? Do you want to like discriminate? It's like this image too small to be used inside like a manifest. So the twig template here system, which is like basically a subset of HTML plus PHP, that actually not too complicated to learn. Still, there's like a learning curve, right? Allows us to like mash and mangle and cut and chop all the data and push it here. So in this case, we're taking the image width into the width of the manifest. The image height there, we're processing the URL where things are saved, we're generating the cantaloupe ID, and then we're iterating and generating all this like IIIF version 3 manifest on the fly. It's very, very powerful. It requires some learning, but that's why we're here. So Archipelago and IIIF are actually not only friends, they're best friends forever. So why? All the media that Archipelago serves, including PDFs, right, goes through Cantaloupe, so the IIIF API, image API. Right? For all the things that Cantaloupe cannot serve, Archipelago provides access points that mimic a structure of a IIIF API. For 3D models and over videos, direct downloads, it's accessible. We provide it for like people enjoy like looking at things, right? IIIF viewers for almost everything. We have IIIF Mirador 3.1, OpenSea Dragon, a customization of the Internet Archive Book Reader, so you can like read that. We have panoramas, 3D, and other things that are coming. We also allow W3C annotations, right, directly on the interface using like the amazing and notorious OSC plugin. All the data, right, is just upcasting from JSON to twig, right, can be exposed at endpoints. So machinable collection APIs can be harvested and you can like reuse them over the place. And also we provide a lot of like basic IIIF manifest, which again, confession, we worked initially very craftily and now they're like more robust. And we have been using the IIIF Cookbook a lot to look at that. It's actually refreshing to not only read specifications. And also Hlcr, right, is coming directly from Solr via the highlighting and can be ingested in this. And also the viewers allow you to like mix and match your internal metadata and repository with external IIIF manifests. I'm going to show you that quickly. And the future of Archipelago and the IIIF. We want to enable the IIIF search API formally, right? We have like internals of that, but want to expose it to the outside. As the IIIF 3D initiative evolves, right? We want to make things like exposed to the IIIF. We have full control of our code because we wrote the 3D viewer. So there's like a good chunk of their things that we can do. We're very interested in the IIIF change discovery API, right? They're like great choices of like alternatives to AI there. We want to also integrate the IIIF Cookbook as a learning resource for users while they're building and testing these twig templates, so they have like good references. Universal viewer, one of the more viewers that we have like left to the side, but we're going to go there. And also the Mirador with more plugins support, specifically the text selection that's coming from the Bavarian State Library and their amazing theme that we kind of love. And eventually, what will happen is IIIF version 4 comes. Well, you don't need to update your software, right? You just change your templates or add a new template, right? Or you like, what is the silhouette graph? You just like test that and see how your viewers interact with that. Links. I'm not going to read through links, but there's like a lot of links. We share the slides in the chat so you can look at them. And thank you. We have a forum, right? That is like semi-active. We're trying to be very interactive. People tend to be more silent, but it's interesting what's happening there. And also just like an open invitation there to our Slack, where most of the fun and the pain and the crying happens. Now I'm going to go live. Allison, are we good in time? Yes, 10 minutes, okay. Let's go to Archipelago. Can you see the screen here? Okay, so this is like a studio Archipelago USC. It's a test ground that we're like using for like testing new IIIF manifest. And last night I made some changes to allow audio and video in one of the manifests. So I'm going to give you like the greatest hits tour here so you can see where Archipelago is actually using IIIF first. The first part here is like Archipelago doesn't generate derivatives or save derivatives as part of the digital objects. Everything is generated via Cantaloupe. So this listing here, the thumbnails are coming directly from Cantaloupe with a very aggressive catching strategy. That's the first thing. Second, let's go with this bookplate with a mount. Annotations. Right now, this is like OpenSea Dragon, right? And I have an annotation here, which is like a signature, right? And I can add new annotations. And I can just draw on top here. And there I go. Drawing live is very hard. And this is a token. Okay. So you see the interaction here is happening through the UI, right? And nothing is saved. It's saved in my session, right? So right now that is saved there. If I press edit, right, you will notice that I have like a discard. It's telling me I have unsaved annotations, right? I can discard them or save them. Nothing interesting here. Next thing is like we have just like this item level object, but this object is actually part of like a creative work series, like a compound, right? So let's press there. There's like a different twig template that generates this manifest. This manifest actually harvests both children and generates a unified one. So you can like view here both, right? And it's actually interesting because you have like full access to this, or you can jail your display, right? That's actually interesting. Now let's do a general browse digital here. And I want to show you one specifically that's, okay, collections. Collection manifest. This is like the Mirror viewer using another template that generates a collection manifest and gets all the children of this one. It's actually interesting to use Mirador for like traversing a collection because you have like full access of comparing things, right? So in this case, actually, I can see this one, right, directly. I can just go back to the collection and I can look at the Ellen Shepherd oral history. And this one includes an image and audio, right? So it's like taking both things. This is like a very interesting object, which I'm going to show you now, Helen. Okay, so the one you just saw, right, was like actually the view of one type of like IIIF manifest generated inside the collection view. But on the landing page itself, right, we have like a different representation. In this case, we're using here on the left side a IIIF manifest version 2.1, the ones of us are version 3, right? And this data here, right, is taking PDFs. So you see like a PDF that's attached to this digital object, a transcript, plus the image, plus the audio. But also we added to the metadata a URL, right, for another IIIF manifest. In this case, I'm using this one, which actually comes from the Cookbook, right? And you can decide how you mix these things because this whole display, this viewer here is not fixed. You can basically say, okay, for this type of object or for this particular object, I want to use this type of viewer, this OpenSea Dragon one, this mix of things, right? And I want to actually use external manifests side by side in comparison. How is this actually stored? If you go down here, you'll see the raw metadata contains everything. And somewhere here is there's like a IIIF manifest, right? Which is coming from your source data, mixed together with also technical metadata for the PDF. So we have the size for every page, with information in general, with the pronoun information, with everything that you need to get started. And editing this, which is super simple, you press edit here, right? You have a descriptive metadata, and this is the form you can modify, and you can just go through every step here, fill up all the different things. And Archipelago is heavily also linked data aware, right? So Wikidata here, and we're going to write here oral history, right there, right? and just like fill out that. And we have for Getty, VF, Europeana, OpenStreetMap's location, etc. Archipelago also extends the IIIF viewer capabilities of Internet Archive book reader. So let me show you here. We're indexing book documents. Pages are shown differently. Don't be scared about the very bad OCR. We're actually testing things here. And I'm going to type botanical here, search. So now it's searching inside that, right? By the way, on the right side, you can see there's like also sentiment extraction for OCR and entity extraction. Archipelago includes natural language capabilities for extracted content from OCR and web archives. So in this case, I'm going to just press the sequence 5, right? And you will notice it's highlighted here. It's like the Internet Archive book reader. And this one, because Internet Archive book reader sometimes stays a bit different in terms of like compatibility, is using a special IIIF tweak template, which is like a 2.1 that is like a bit different. That's basically what you can like do here. Finally, log in. I'm going to just show you because I'm running out of time and I'm very good at talking too much. Archipelago provides all these things user exposed, right? So the metadata displays you see are these ones, these tweak templates. And we have IIIF version 3, 2.1, right? We have a carousel image thing on the front that is also that IIIF driven. GeoJSON, not IIIF driven, thumbnails via IIIF presentation for the creative works, series, collection manifest, and even like tiny chunks of thumbnails that we're taking, right? So just let me show you how this is working. And Allison already showed this like in lightning talk, but it's like actually interesting. Just let's take that Helen, Shepard, or history, right? I have my tweak template here, right? Which is like, if you close your eyes slightly, you won't see the code and you will see just like it actually manifest. And I'm going to press show preview, right? And it's going to generate here on the fly this thing. But while I'm building and what I'm learning with this, I have access to all the metadata that I need to build this, right, from this digital object. Let's make a mistake, actually. The last thing, I make a lot of mistakes. Let's add to this JSON an extra curly bracket. And let's press show preview using the native output format. Oops, syntax error, right? So actually, by allowing the system to like use your data and also like validate your data and selecting your output format, in this case, this one here, right, is JSON LD, and you can like select JSON, HTML, XML, CSV, etc. You can actually start using and testing things, right? And I added video and audio last night, and it took me like 15 minutes plus a coffee because I need a coffee, and it's not actually a big deal. And again, I'm not a IIIF manifest practitioner. Okay, that's all I have to present right now because it's very short time.
Okay, we have a couple of questions that we can answer. Two related questions from Brian in the chat. And the first one, he asked if you enforce linked data usage. Do we encourage the apps that we use to have linked data context? And then another one was, for the manifest that you are dynamically generating, how often does the source data contain a linked data reference, and what do you do when it doesn't? So just to answer those questions kind of quickly, usage of linked data is not enforced or required, but Archipelago's default digital objects, collections and web forms and displays, they include linked data integrations in various parts, including like on blocks on display pages and things, but that's not at all enforced. You don't have to use them on the default. There's also space for local subjects and local context, unmapped things for sure. And going along with that, for your manifest template, your IIIF manifest template, you don't have to reference the linked data sources. You could go with one of those local context. And one other question that came in through the chat was, is it possible to import scans with HOCR already?
Yes. Yes.
Just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah. PDFs and other things we're like extracting from the background. So we first check if there's already OCR. If not, we process that. And it's also multilingual. That's another thing. It's like we would have the time for this. But Archipelago can use like for the same digital object multiple languages, and your IIIF manifest will actually react to that and will actually show in different languages everything, which is kind of interesting.
That is, yeah, thank you. That is just a real whirlwind. Diego, thank you. You are one of the people I know who can do the most in a short span of time. And this is a great example.
Thanks so
So
much.
we are right at. No, I think it's a great presentation skill. We are right at time, so there are a couple great comments and other questions. Please continue to keep that going in the Whova platform. I'm going to end the recording here, and thank you both, Diego and Allison, for this presentation, and thanks folks for joining. And yeah, thanks for the interest in IIIF.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.